everybody, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Zach.
And I'm Seth.
And we're the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right, we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
We are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
And happy Thanksgiving.
This time it's Thanksgiving.
That's right, last time was pre-Thanksgiving, before Thanksgiving, which I guess every episode of ours, except for perhaps this episode, is before Thanksgiving.
Technically this is before Thanksgiving, because it's before next Thanksgiving.
But it's after 2021's Thanksgiving. All previous episodes have been before.
That's right, yes.
Anyway, Zach, do you have something that you are thankful for?
Yes, Seth. I'm thankful for recently playing a game, and that game is Minecraft Dungeons. Minecraft Dungeons released in 2020. It's developed by Mojang Studios and Double 11. It's a dungeon crawler game set in the world of Minecraft. Despite the game's name, there really isn't much crafting or mining, but there is plenty of dungeons. It's a hack and slash style game, very similar to Diablo, but it's also a lot easier than Diablo. My understanding is it's easier than Diablo because of the demographics of Minecraft players. Minecraft does tend to skew toward a younger audience, so I think when they were developing the game, they didn't want to bring in the difficulty of Diablo, but rather just the style of Diablo. But even though it is probably kind of pointed toward a younger audience, I'm actually enjoying it. I find the game fairly mindless, which allows me to, like, if I want to play a game that I want to have like action in it, but I don't want to have to really think about the action that I'm doing, I'm probably going to play this game because it just allows me to like wander around and spam the attack button and just slice up zombies. So that's been pretty fun.
I have a question.
I have an answer.
So I'm a Minecraft noob, as it were. I'm very illiterate when it comes to Minecraft.
Okay.
Is Minecraft Dungeons, what's its relation to the Minecraft, the regular game?
So it's by the same company, Mojang.
Yeah.
And it has the same aesthetic.
Okay.
So it's like everything's blocky and uses the same art style, and it has some of the same monsters that you might encounter in the actual game Minecraft. So like the zombies and skeletons are the same as in Minecraft.
The creepers.
There's also creepers. Yep, creepers. There's this group called the Illagers, who are like evil villagers.
Ooh.
And they have like crossbows and stuff there in this game. There's like witches and stuff. So it's all the aesthetic of Minecraft, but without the actual mining or crafting part.
Gotcha. So it's like Minecraft, except you're just slicing.
It's its own genre just set in the world that have been created, the kind of lore that was created around Minecraft.
There's a Telltale series about Minecraft as well. Have you played
Minecraft
that?
Adventure Mode or whatever it's called, yeah.
Have you played it?
I have not. It's also on Netflix.
The Telltale game?
Yeah, it's one of these interactive...
Oh, that's fun. Then
like
the weird
Bandersnatch?
Netflix games? Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. Like, I think it's like the first season that they did.
That's interesting. It's also not very good, from what I've been told.
Yeah, I've been told it's not very good.
But if it's on
either.
Netflix, I might play it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
It's for free. Free is for me.
I mean, this has been pretty fun. I'm also technically playing it for free. It's part of Game Pass, so I've been playing it as part of the free Game Pass months that I've been given. Whether or not I'll want to revisit it later after Game Pass has ended for me, or if I ever decide to keep up Game Pass, I don't know yet, but I do quite enjoy it. I do think that the game... So there's no like classes in this game, which I'm kind of more used to in the Diablo-style dungeon crawler genre, where you have like a class that you can kind of expert in. This has no classes. It's just like everything's based on the type of weapons you get, the type of armor you get. You know, the better weapons, the better armor you find, the better you'll do, which kind of makes the game, I don't know, it's just like the progression is not the same as when you play a game and you have to like hone your craft in a specific class of character. So you're not like trying to become the best wizard of the bunch. You're just a guy who has a sword. If you have Game Pass, check it out. Or if you like Minecraft, check it out. It's got all the Minecraft elements to it. It's also an Unreal, so it runs considerably better than actual Minecraft does, which is in Java.
That's funny.
So it runs like incredibly smooth, where like actual Minecraft is in Java and runs poorly. But what about you, Seth?
Well, recently I actually played through a game that I once saw at PAX. And I'm not sure if I saw it at the PAX that we went to or if I saw it at a previous PAX. But that game that I saw was Moncage. And I'm not sure if I talked about it before as a game that we saw at PAX or what have you.
I remember this at PAX. I don't remember talking about this at PAX.
Okay.
I thought this game was Superliminal.
Both Superliminal and Moncage were at PAX.
I remember seeing Moncage and thinking it was Superliminal.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Moncage. So it was released on November 15th of 2021. And I think I figured out yesterday that it was released. So I started playing the first time through and I didn't get very far and I quit. But then I came back and then I just got sucked in and I played 4 hours of it and beat it in those 4 hours. I'll caveat that I beat it one way. So this game was developed by Optilusion and published by XD. And it's a puzzle adventure game where you are spending your entire time looking at this cube. And each face of the cube, and you only get to see one of the sides you never get to see because it is on the ground. It's the base of the cube. And then you get to see the 4 sides around the vertical sides, and then you see the top and making a cube. That's how shapes work. And each face has a different, almost like a little diorama built into it. And you have to essentially move your perspective around so that different areas of the different dioramas overlap so that two things become one thing. So it's kind of complicated to explain, but pretty easy in practice. The first thing you have to do is you open up a chest, and in the chest there's a toy car. And the first diorama is this broken down vehicle pulling a load of supplies in the snow. And so what you have to do is turn the perspective of the camera so that the toy car lines up with the broken down vehicle, and then it becomes a different new vehicle that then can drive up the snow and carry its load. Overall, it's a pretty fun game. Obviously, I spent 4 hours playing it. It's very, the puzzle. It's at the level of difficulty that I feel like it's at an easier level of difficulty. I got through most of the puzzles without any hints. I did have to use their in-game hint system towards the end. They do also kind of give you hints. They'll give you a couple, and then they'll put you in a timeout where you kind of have to wait a minute before they give you another hint, so you can kind of think about the puzzle. And sometimes just thinking about something really helps with being able to solve and figure it out.
I like the term, they put you in timeout.
They do put you in timeout. They perhaps even a cage.
A mon cage?
Some of the puzzles that I liked were ones where you had to change the time of day or the light to change the color of the item so that it would match another color of another item in a different diorama. So maybe there would be a fire, or there would be a light, and it would make an item orange, and then you can line up that orange with another orange item. So I always thought that was kind of cool. But I played through it. I beat it. I got one of the endings. I did not get the secret ending, but I got, I think, a pretty good ending, and I beat it. So I'm proud of myself with that. I'll probably go back and try and pick up the remaining. You have to collect these postcards, and you have to get 15 of them. What's fun is when you beat the game, it starts the game all over again from the first puzzle, and you just roll through the puzzles again. So you
fun.
can kind of get through the game faster. It's kind of almost, it gets to that point of Sudoku level kind of puzzles, that kind of just doing puzzles for the sake of doing puzzles. I also think it's fun that you can get an achievement. That's what I was thinking. You can get an achievement if you could beat the game in 45 minutes. You get an achievement.
Fun.
It took me 4 hours, so obviously I'm not the brightest bulb in the shed, but...
Well, neither of us are. So
yeah, that's why you don't keep bulbs in sheds.
Well, today we are talking about a game that is not really related to any of the games that we've been playing. It is a game that is massively popular, like Minecraft, and it's a game that has squares in it, I think, like Moncage. Anyway, today we're kind of doing a follow-up on our Quake episode that we did not too long ago. This time, though, we're going to focus on one particular game that was spun off from Quake originally as a mod, and that game is Team Fortress.
Right. And this episode we're going to dedicate around Team Fortress Classic, which is very different than, well, I wouldn't say very different, but it is significantly different than Team Fortress 2, the very popular sequel to Team Fortress Classic.
Right.
Team Fortress Classic originated its roots in a mod where Team Fortress 2 was built independently. So to start everything off as we usually do with just our memories, I don't have that many memories of specifically Team Fortress Classic. It was one of the many games that I would play during that time when we were playing a lot of mods. So like Day of Defeat, Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, Ricochet, all those different weird Half-Life, Quake mods that all kind of came out around the same time. Team Fortress was kind of tossed in there for me. I believe at some point in time there was a period when Valve picked up Team Fortress and had Team Fortress Classic on Steam or available through their catalog. Like you could buy it at the store as Team Fortress Classic by itself, but it didn't run on Quake.
It would have ran in Gold Source by that time.
It ran on Gold Source. And that's the version of Team Fortress Classic I was familiar with. So I didn't play the Quake mod. I played the Gold Source Team Fortress Classic edition. At the same time I was playing like Day of Defeat, which I preferred. Personally, I like Day of Defeat. It's a fun mod. We'll talk about Day of Defeat another day. And Day of Defeat, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what Day of Defeat is, it is a World War II mod that was off of the Half-Life in the Gold Source engine, which as a child, I always felt like they were mods of Counter-Strike, but since Counter-Strike itself was a mod, it was kind of, I guess,
a mod of a mod of a mod
of a mod of a mod.
I mean, my memories of Team Fortress only come from TF2 because I got into playing TF2 around the time that it went free to play, which we'll talk about a little bit. And I do actually own a copy of Team Fortress Classic. I've played a little bit of it. I actually got this because there was a period of time where I played a lot of Half-Life 1, which I've discussed multiple times. And there was like a point where I wanted all of the Valve-made Half-Life 1 mods. So I bought a bunch of them when they're either on sale or I just spent full retail. I bought a bunch of them. So I have like Day of Defeat, Team Fortress Classic, Counter-Strike. I think I have Ricochet somewhere. It's just I have all these like in Steam. I have all the Half-Life 1 like Valve games that were built on that engine just because I needed them for some reason. I don't think any of them had like, even when I bought them, I think their servers were all pretty much like down. So like I think Team Fortress Classic had maybe like 30 servers running. I think Ricochet had 3. So maybe one day we'll talk about Ricochet.
I did also play a lot of TF2. I played at least 40 hours of it, but I played a lot of it before Steam tracked your time, so I have no idea how many hours. I would have to look up my Xfire account and see how many hours is on my Xfire account for Team Fortress 2.
According to my total times, I have 87 hours in Team Fortress 2, which is 4 hours longer than I have in Half-Life 1. So yeah, as I mentioned, going a bit into the history of Team Fortress, in our Quake episode, we talked about how Quake became a game that was modded by a lot of different people. And we talked a bit about how it was the starting point for other games, like for example, the Half-Life series. One of those games that got its start based in Quake was everyone's favorite hat collecting simulator, Team Fortress. Before it became one of the most popular free-to-play first-person shooters, Team Fortress saw its birth in 1996 as a mod for Quake. And this mod was developed by Robin Walker, John Cook, and Ian Coughley. Together they called themselves Team Fortress Software.
Now, Walker took on the role of lead designer and coder. He also created some of the maps in the game, such as the map that would inspire the popular, quote, to the number fort, unquote. Cook worked as the managing director and coder on the project, and Coughley was a software engineer who also took on the role of business management.
For those who've played Team Fortress 2, Fort is one of the most simplest maps in the game, but it's literally a fort on one side of a river, and a fort on the other side of the river, and there's a bridge in the center. So there's 2 forts. And in Walker's original design, which was in the Quake engine, it was even simpler, where these forts were like just squares with your team colors on them and then a bridge in the center.
But you don't necessarily look at Blood Gulch. You don't really need a complicated map to
You
have
don't.
fun.
You don't. And I think just because something's simple doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
It was a simple thing, but with a game like Team Fortress, and we'll talk about gameplay later, sometimes simple is the best.
What I like is that back in this time, there were people making mods of games and they were just little baby companies where they're our entire company's existence is predicated on making this one modification of another game.
Yeah, they had a person who was in charge of business management and they were just a modding team.
Yeah, which I don't think happens that much anymore.
I definitely don't think so.
Well, Forgotten City definitely came around that way, right? But I don't know. I guess it does happen a little bit. After the mod's release, it was brought over to Quake World, id Software's official update that added better netcode and online improvements, and they began to work on a standalone title. In the modding scene, a standalone title is exactly what it sounds like, a game that does not require the base game to play. Sometimes, mods will be released as standalone titles despite being built on the engine of a previous game. After spending some time working on the sequel that they had planned to call Team Fortress 2, Valve Software reached out, and Valve hired the entire team and asked them to write a port of Team Fortress to the Gold Source engine that Valve had used for Half-Life, which is the version of the game that I ended up playing.
Now, this version of the game was released on April 7th, 1999, and an updated version was released on June 9th, 2000, called Team Fortress 1.5.
Valve is obsessed with point versions of their games.
Oh, yeah. Valve does not like round numbers for games.
No, Valve loathes round numbers.
The updated version added new sounds, weapons, enhanced graphics, updated models, new maps, and an updated user interface. Valve also added new netcode that they had planned to implement in a game that they had started work on as well. This game was Team Fortress 2, but not the one you're probably thinking of. Because Valve's plan for Team Fortress 2 was to have a modern war aesthetic. One of their ideas was to have this command hierarchy where you would have the commander class. You could also call in parachute drops, and there was going to be a real-time strategy element where the commander could control other players and AI soldiers via commands from a top-down perspective. This version of TF2 was teased at E3 1999, where Valve was excited to show off some new techniques that they're implementing for animation in the game. Specifically, they're playing around with some new molding that you could do with 3D modeling to make the animation look a bit more lifelike. A year later, the game was delayed.
Now, if you're thinking about what Team Fortress 2 looks like now versus what Team Fortress Classic looked like, they are two entirely different looking games. Their core gameplays are very similar, but Team Fortress Classic looks very much like a Half-Life mod. It looks like color-coordinated Counter-Strike. So thinking about going from that leap to a commander with parachuting and stuff like that isn't too far-fetched versus if you think about where the Team Fortress 2 ended up being and became what it ended up eventually becoming. Though, however, after the game was delayed, Valve really, during that year, they kind of took a break with Team Fortress. They shifted their focus to Half-Life 2 and developed a new engine, the Source engine. The Source engine, unlike Gold Source, was much more advanced. It had improved lighting, more realistic item physics, player ragdolls, and improved texture mapping. In fact, there was a game called Gary's Mod that's available, and you could do some ridiculous things in the Source engine. It was one of the first engines that I interacted with as a player that had some really cool physics aspects, including a lot of physics-based puzzles. Not only did Half-Life have physics-based puzzles, but also Portal as well. So Source was a huge step up from Gold Source.
Absolutely.
And during this time, Walker and Cook both went to work in various different positions and on various different projects at Valve. And I think we talked about this previously, but Valve is a weird company. They are what's known as a cabal. So in Valve, it's a very flat leadership model because nobody is the leader. year. What happens is that members of the company will sit down and talk about a project that they're going to work on, and they'll say like, hey, we need somebody who's good with art, and somebody will say, I really like this project and I'm good at art, I will be your artist. And like that's how Valve goes and makes games. They have to get buy-in from a majority of people, they have to build a team, and then they work on the game as that team, which makes some quality games. It also slows down production. So it wouldn't be uncommon for like, if Walker and Cook were obviously skilled, it wouldn't be uncommon that they would just go work on a different project if they weren't working on Team Fortress. That's how Valve's culture kind of works. Walker ended up taking project lead of Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and Cook would work on Valve's new content distribution system, Steam. Fans of the original Team Fortress had assumed that the sequel they were hoping for had become vaporware, similar to what Duke Nukem 3D fans had accepted about Duke Nukem Forever. Vaporware is a terminology where essentially a company, I would say, what lies to you.
Yeah.
Or at least creates enough assets that makes it look like they're doing work, but they're actually not really doing anything. Or they're delaying it. There's always constant reasons. And there could be a number of reasons why vaporware is a thing. Mostly, I would blame vaporware on scope creep and also technical issues that are usually caused by scope creep, and also competing priorities of management. So those are a couple of reasons why vaporware kind of exists as a thing.
I mean, and sometimes it's unavoidable things. I mean, there's stories of companies who, for example, Duke Nukem Forever, which started out life as a 3D Realms game, and then 3D Realms went under and ended up bouncing around to different, people who would work on it.
Yeah, but I think there's a big difference between an intellectual property going away because of company issues and vaporware. I feel like XCOM is a great example. XCOM was a Microprose property. They released a bunch of games. Microprose went away, and the XCOM property went into limbo and eventually was bought at auction, and 2K picked it up, and they just sat on it. But like XCOM fans weren't like waiting for an XCOM game to come out.
It would have been different though if like Microprose teased an XCOM game,
right?
And then
or
they went
2K
under.
did,
yeah, or 2K did at the very beginning
and just didn't do anything with it. Like there are games out there, and I won't go into specifics because there are some games that are controversial that are currently out there that are considered a little bit of vaporware. And I'm sure the people listening at home can think of a couple of games, but essentially where a company goes out, makes a promise about a certain game, and they don't create it. And time is linear. So if you don't create something today, you'll have to create it tomorrow. And if you don't create it tomorrow, it's already going to be next year. And the companies will just let projects kind of slip away. Anyway, so people thought that Team Fortress 2 was going to be vaporware. However, it was not. And both Team Fortress 2 and Duke Nukem Forever were released eventually. Team Fortress 2 was released before Duke Nukem Forever was released.
It came out much sooner.
Much sooner. There was not that much of a lag between the two. And unlike Duke Nukem Forever, Team Fortress 2 was not bad, where Duke Nukem Forever was very bad. But now, Team Fortress 2 was released on October 10th of 2007 and was part of Valve's Orange Box pack. The Orange Box was probably the best value for a video game, period.
Oh, ridiculously good, yeah.
100%. What I recall with my memory, it MSRP'd at like $50, and it compiled Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Episode 2, a new physics puzzle game called Portal, and Team Fortress 2. So you get 3 Half-Life games, Portal, and Team Fortress 2, which, funny enough, Team Fortress 2 was the only... I was just thinking about that. I don't know when I was thinking about it, but it wasn't like the other day where I was just like leaf raking and had a thought about how many games
You're staring out the
happened
window, you're drinking your coffee, and you said, whoa.
I was like, how many games got sequels from the Orange Box? And all of them except Team Fortress 2, because Half-Life wouldn't get Half-Life. It would not get Episode 3.
No.
Nor did it get Half-Life 3. Those two don't exist yet. But it did get Half-Life Alyx, which I would say is a sequel to Half-Life.
It's a sequel to Half-Life 1, prequel to Half-Life 2.
It's a Half-Life game they developed after Half-Life 2.
Yes, that's fair. Half-Life 3, by the way, is vaporware. Now, this version of Team Fortress 2 that came out in the orange box took on a vastly different aesthetic than the first Team Fortress game, Team Fortress Classic, and the Team Fortress 2 that Valve had demoed. The characters had gone from being these more realistic looking, I mean, I would call them realistic looking in a sense. I mean, they were blocky like textures back in Gold Source days, but they looked like people, to being this like stylized, cell shaded, almost cartoony proportioned, almost caricature of characters in this new game. The sequel also added various new gameplay modes, with more being added over the course of the years that followed, because Valve updated the game on a pretty regular basis. Some of the modes, though, included Payload, where you push a cart with a bomb, and Payload Race, where two people push a cart with a bomb, so you have two teams competing over who gets their bomb to a location first, and Man vs. Machine, which is a player versus computer mode where you fight robots. The game would later go to a free-to-play model in 2012, which allowed the game to be downloaded for free while microtransactions were added into the mix. So a microtransaction, for those who might be listening and not sure what that means, because you don't have those in retro video games, but a microtransaction is where you might buy the game or download the game for a set price or for free, but in the game there are things that you have to pay for, such as cosmetics or loot boxes or weapons. So Team Fortress is really the first game I know that really did this, I think, effectively, even though it's like identical to how everyone else does it to the day.
I would say they did it fairly.
The way Team Fortress 2 did it made more sense because when you downloaded the free-to-play version, the moment you made your first microtransaction purchase, you were pretty much given your copy was no longer considered a free-to-play copy. It was considered a retail copy of the game,
right,
which actually allowed you perks over what the free-to-play version had. So, like, for example, when I got Team Fortress 2, I downloaded it for free. I bought a knife for 99 cents, and my version was considered equivalent to those of people who bought the game in the orange box.
Right, but I bought my game in the orange box, and when the game went free to play, they gave me a bunch of stuff. Also, a bunch of my weapons were valuable from orange box that you can't get anymore. I've since sold every single one of my Team Fortress 2 weapons that I got with the orange box for their own prices. I don't know if I made back the cost of my orange box, but I have certainly sold off most of the stuff. So to talk about the gameplay, Team Fortress, the original version, was a team and class-based multiplayer online first-person shooter. In the Quake mod, there are a few game modes. Two of these modes from the Quake mod would stay consistent through the series. The attack defense mode and capture the flag. Attack defend, players on one side of the map must attack players on the other side of the map. The attacking players have a goal of capturing points, while defending players defend said points. Capture the flag, both players have equal proportion maps and both have flags of their team colors, either red or blue, and players must capture the flag the most number of times within a time frame while also protecting their own flag. The game features 9 classes that a player can choose from. The classes that go through are the Scout, the Sniper, the Soldier, the Demolitions Man, the Combat Medic, the Heavy Weapons Guy, the Pyromaniac, the Spy, and the Engineer. Many of these are self-explanatory. The last class was the Civilian, which was primarily used for escort or protect the VIP type gameplay, which I think they got rid of when they moved to Team Fortress 2. I think they really replaced the Civilian with a cart.
Yeah.
And then you have to push the cart, which is probably in Team Fortress 2 one of my favorite missions. In fact, my Team Fortress 2, I think it's still it's my Steam handle, I guess. My clan tag was Pushkin because we were always pushing the cart. The Scout was a quicker moving unit. They generally were able to, in the classic version, be able to disrupt the Spy. The Sniper had a sniper rifle. The Soldier would have explosive yield weapons. weapons, like a rocket launcher. The Demolitions Man had grenade launchers and grenades. The combat medic was able to heal the other people in the class, or the other people on the team. The heavy weapons guy would have some manner of repeating heavy machine gun. And the pyro, or the pyromaniac, had a flamethrower. The spy was able to sap engineers' turrets and various engineers' constructibles, and they were also able to look like a member of the other team. And in Team Fortress 2, they have the ability to go invisible. And then engineer, they're able to build turrets, they were able to build teleport pads and sentries and ammunition. So they were able to build all those things.
Now, the sequel, Team Fortress 2, keeps all these classes. It does, like Seth and I mentioned, it removes the civilian, though it kind of replaced the civilian with the payload. It also added a couple more game modes: Control Points, King of the Hill, and Payload. Control Points is similar to Attack and Defend, but now both teams are fighting over the same control points. So instead of one team pushing a team back to the edge of their base and capturing points along the way, both teams are kind of vying for control of multiple points. King of the Hill, where there is one central point and it must be held for a period of time. And then the payload, as described earlier, features a big bomb that must be moved from one portion of the map to the other. And there's a variant of this called Payload Race, where both teams are trying to push the payload from one portion of the map to the other, and both teams are trying to prevent the other team from getting the payload to the end. I think payload is probably my favorite of the modes. One of my favorite things to do was my friend would play a lot as a medic, and I would play a lot as heavy, and I would just camp at the top of the payload, which a lot of people do, and that's a common method, but it was always very effective with the both of us, because he was a very good medic. I, meanwhile, was a very bad medic. There has also been other modes added to the game, so there's kind of over time, as I mentioned, Team Fortress 2 has been updated, and there's been modes added for special events, such as the Halloween mode. Seth kind of lied at the opening. We are going to talk a bit about Team Fortress 2, I think a little more than Team Fortress Classic. But there also was a story added to Team Fortress 2, and it's told pretty much primarily all through promotional material that was used to introduce the character classes, and the occasional comic that were released, both physically and digitally. To summarize, though, the story follows the conflict between two brothers, Redmond Man, spelled M-A-N-N, and Blutarch Man, who were both left equal shares of land and a company, Man Co., from their father. Both brothers would then hire mercenaries to try to fight each other to claim the land and the portion of the company that they believed was rightfully theirs. Now, over the years, these two factions would form the Reliable Excavation Demolition, or Red Team, and the Builders League United, or BLU Blue Team. The combat is overseen by a woman named Helen, who goes by the title of the Administrator, and she's assisted by Saxton Hale, who looks very much like a buff, shirtless Teddy Roosevelt with a Crocodile Dundee hat, and is the president and CEO of Manco. Hale provides resources and weapons for both factions. So both factions are working for Manco, are paid through Manco, but are always constantly fighting each other.
All of the Team Fortress 2 shorts are available online, and they are hilarious. You don't need to have played Team Fortress 2 to understand them. I just recommend you watch all of them. Meet the Heavy and Meet the Sniper are probably my two favorite, but they're all good. They're all worth a watch. They're kind of like the Overwatch shorts that were done, but I think they're a little more tongue-in-cheek than the Overwatch ones were. They're definitely, I feel like Team Fortress 2 in the story takes itself more as like a tongue. I think the whole game's kind of tongue-in-cheek. To do the numbers, it was hard to find down the exact numbers on the first Team Fortress, as the Quake version was a free download. Team Fortress Classic was also free to owners of Half-Life. The game has held an 85% on the Game Rankings website, and also a 9.8 out of 10 by the PC Gaming World magazine. Team Fortress 2, much more easier to track. The Orange Box alone sold around 3 million copies by the end of 2008. Since it was released on the Steam platform, it's estimated that around 50 million copies have been downloaded, which is based on a Game Industry article back from 2018. Despite the free-to-play model, Valve has also made a good chunk of change. The reason being is because Valve quadrupled their player base when they moved it to the new free-to-play mode, because people like my brother would play a free game and maybe they'd buy something, which would be money that they would otherwise not have. Changing the game from whatever the current MSRP at the time was, $40 or $50, to a free-to-play mode, not only quadrupled their player base, but also quadrupled their revenue from items being sold in their workshop. One figure noted that Valve had made an estimated $139 million in 2013, a year after they moved to the new model. The Steam platform also allows players to sell items to each other via the Steam Workshop, which Valve, of course, takes a cut out of. Team Fortress 2 users alone have made an estimated $3 million by selling items, which Valve will take a percentage of at the end of the day. And I imagine it's not that low of a percentage.
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage at the top of my head, but I know, like, for example, if I sell a card for 3 cents, I'll get a penny.
Right, and Valve takes the other 2.
And Valve takes the other 2. So imagine that now. Not all cards sell for 3 pennies. Some sell for like $14, $15, and some of the items in Team Fortress 2 can sell upward to $14, $15 to more. I've seen stuff go for like $30 to $40. So now imagine Valve taking a cut of that.
I think this is one of the reasons why Valve doesn't get too much flack for its microtransactions, is because all of its microtransactions are pretty small dollars. You very infrequently see a very expensive item up for sale on the marketplace. It's also driven primarily through, like me selling something to you, versus it's like a Craigslist. The thing is Valve has is quantity. Valve moves a lot of 3 cent, 2 cent, 4 cent units. I could be like, I got $20 today. I'm going to spend $20 on Team Fortress. Like, I'm just going to buy a bunch of Team Fortress hats. Like, and they're all going to cost me like 10 cents.
And I bet you anything that people have set up automation and bots and stuff to do this for them. I've put, like, Team Fortress has the Manco crates, which are the like loot boxes. I've put those up for sale for $0.01, and they've sold the moment I posted them.
There's actually a plugin that I had that allowed me to batch list my entire library at any time for a price that would auto sell. Like, it would be like, this is the current trend, this is what it's been selling at, here's where you need to put your item at to sell it within the next. It's like, if you want to make X number of dollars, set it here and this is when you'll get it, or set it here and you'll get it maybe in a week, kind of thing. But yeah, I used to make, like, in a week I would make like $20. So it's not a lot of money if I'm selling all my stuff online for $20 in a week, but none of the items I paid for that I didn't buy any of the items I sold. They were given to me, right? I collected them through playing the games. So I just sold off things that I didn't need through playing the games. B, $20 is almost halfway to a game. I'm essentially subsidizing a video game, which I'm going to spend on Steam. So I'm going to give Steam their more money back because I'm going to buy a game on Steam that they get a cut up anyway. Steam gives me stuff to sell on their platform, which they get a cut of. And then I go and take the rest of that money back and I go buy a game on their platform, which they take a cut of. So at the end of the day, Steam, it's like a promotion, really. I'm not making money off of Steam. I'm sure maybe somebody smarter than I can make money off of Steam, but not me.
So that's Team Fortress. We did touch a bit upon Team Fortress 2, talked a bit more about Team Fortress 1. I think Team Fortress is such a great multiplayer game, and I think it really helped build the style of multiplayer games that games like Overwatch and such would soon spawn from, which is the, team-based multiplayer game, and class-based multiplayer game, which, I think is very cool. And of course, we would also see like mods and stuff come out of just Team Fortress in Team Fortress 2. So there are games like Fortress Forever, which is a attempt to recreate the Team Fortress Classic, but in a like source engine. So kind of take what Team Fortress 2 could have been if it was a logical progression from the first game. And then you have things like people still running private servers for the Quake Team Fortress, or people still running servers for Team Fortress Classic. So it's got this massive fan base out there, and I think it's a great game. And now I feel a little nostalgic. Maybe I'll boot up my copy of Team Fortress Classic.
Or TF2 at least.
Or yeah, at least TF2. That game's huge. I don't know. It takes like 40 hours to download. Anyway, Seth, would you like to move on to the Buy Wait Pass?
So as a quick recap, the way the Buy Wait Pass segment works is that I pick a game for Zach, Zach picks a game for me, we describe the game to each other, and then through the magic of editing, we get our first takes on it. So I don't know what game Zach has for me, he doesn't know what game I have for him, he's going to eventually describe it to me, and I'll describe the game I have for him. Then we'll look it up, and we may find something that we may like, we may find something that we may not necessarily like. It doesn't mean that if we pass on a game, it doesn't mean that the game is bad. It just means that it's not our cup of tea and that the other brother chose poorly.
That's true.
So do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. So this game, Seth.
Hold on. I'm not listening. I just have to...
Please turn on your listening ears.
My listening ears are on.
This game, Seth, is an action adventure game. I would call it similar to like a platformer in line with Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Ukulele. It's not necessarily a collectathon, but it's got kind of that vibe to it. It's a third-person game. In the game, you are playing as an animal who's uncovering a cosmic mystery. Are you interested?
Sure.
This is called Platypus Adventures. So we're going to take a quick break as Seth does some research on Platypus Adventures. And we are now back.
So according to Steam, this game doesn't look like other things you've played in the past. As such, we don't have much information whether or not you might be interested in it. So it is a cute 3D platformer. I don't necessarily know if it's something that I would play. I might buy it, but I don't know if I'll play it. So I'm not going to put that down as a buy. But though it's something that my wife might be interested in. I think I'm always on the quest to find video games that my wife may like to play, and I think this would be one of them. So I may not buy it to play it, but I may buy it to have her play it. I'm going to put it down as a pass with the caveat that I'm probably going to pick it up for my wife. So the game is you're going to have to build, fight, farm, and explore. Experience your own path, whether it's building the home of your dreams or tending to your crops and watching the sun go down, or explore the mysteries of the island and the darkness underneath, but you may want to take a sword.
Huh. What game is this, Seth?
It is Lens Island.
And we're back. So this game, Lens Island, looks pretty neat. It's being developed by Flow Studio and published by Flow Studio. It kind of reminds me of like a top-down, less scary version of The Forest, where it's a lot of like collecting and crafting and constructing a home. And I like those kind of games. I like games where you can just kind of hang around and build and craft, and it actually looks, despite the threat of potentially monsters, which it does have, it looks like most of the game is pretty peaceful and just kind of like chillaxing until you have to fight creatures. I'm going to put this down as a wait. I want to kind of get an idea, kind of get a vibe out from people once it's out, but it looks very nice to me, so I think I might at least consider it. It's due out this Friday, so...
I did want to mention that Platypus Adventures will be out in 2022, so my thoughts may change by then, and it's being developed by Fig Tree Digital.
All right, that's going to do it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for tonight's episode on Team Fortress, and thank you again for listening to us. If you need to find us, we're available on all the available podcasting applications out there. If you need to reach out to us, you can do so via our email, classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com, or through our website, classicgamingbrothers.com. We're also available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our Facebook and Instagram are Classic Gaming Brothers. Our Twitter is CG Brothers Pod. You can also find us on Twitch, and if you'd like, you could support us by giving us reviews or liking us on any of the podcasting applications out there, such as iTunes. You can leave us a review on iTunes. That would be fantastic. I think that's it, unless I'm forgetting anything, Seth.
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Seth.
And I've been Zach.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
Professionals have standards. Be polite. Be efficient. Have a plan to kill everyone you meet.